Welcome to the Real Indie Author Podcast, the show for fiction writers who are tired of burning out on advice that doesn't fit how we're wired. I'm Frankie, and I'm burning the book mill. Let's build your engine together. So welcome back. And today we are talking about the different ways that authors burn out. And let me just tell you that we burn out in a lot of different ways because writing and the author business isn't any different than anything else, except for the fact that too often we are treated as though our author business isn't actually a business. And too many people are on the outside looking in and going, well, when are you going to get a real job? Or why are you fighting so hard to spend all of your free time on this instead of spending your free time with me? And a lot of times we'll get into discussions and arguments with our significant others who are jealous of the attention that we are spending with our books. And the reason for that is because when we get into the author business, when we're publishing and writing books for money, there are a lot of things going. There are 5 departments that every author has to fill. It's a big business. So when people are like, oh yeah, so you're just self-published, I just want to punch them in the face because I'm like, you obviously have no idea how hard it is to be an indie author. And their support is actually one of the biggest facilitators to authors burning out in the first place. So if you are an author, I highly recommend that you surround yourself by people who actually support your dream, but who can also pinpoint when you're pushing yourself into obsession, which is something that we can do. So some of us can absolutely do that. So the authors who have been coming to me lately who need help have been on the end of a really long burnout period that's anywhere between 4 and 5 years. So like 4 or 5 years ago, some big event happened and they just had to take a step back. They just quit, myself included. And so now we're coming back and we're trying to figure out how to do it, but we want to do it the right way. And we find ourselves falling back into these old habits, the habits that made us successful or semi-successful the last time are the very same things that we can't sustain now, because now that we're back, like our cup isn't even shaped the same, because some of these life events took our cup and broke it. I've got a couple of authors who are going through that right now, and they're kicking themselves for not being able to write right now, but they're actively grieving. Like, how can you write from an empty cup, number one? How can you fill a cup that is broken or shattered or doesn't even have a bottom right now? You can't. So that, I think, is one of the biggest things that I'm seeing currently, is that we have authors who are giving themselves a hard time for not being able to write when their life is a wreck. Well, I should be able to write when my life is a wreck. Why? Why? Like, writing is amazing and magical when everything is in alignment. But if you're not the type of writer who can write when your heart is figuratively broken, then you shouldn't give yourself a hard time for not being able to do that. But I think that we have such a stigma about writing in general and then trying to make it a career. And you're only successful if you're making X amount of money and you can do this as a full-time gig. When success, in most cases, is a part-time gig. Like even some of these full-time authors, if you read between the lines, you'll see that they're spending so much money on ads and their ROI is barely makes it. Barely makes it. So when we're looking at the things that we should emulate, we need to have a real picture of what we ourselves can do. Because look. If our goal is so far out of our reach, we're not going to be able to make it. And the only thing that we're going to do is we're going to break trust, the self-trust in our capabilities. And every single time we sit down to write, we have to overcome ourselves in order to get to the words. And it's not just that, because the act of writing is this space, is gray brain connections where we're sinking into the experience and we're touching on so many different things and we're connecting so many different dots so that we're not just telling a story, because we're at a point now in society where we can't just tell stories. We have to share experiences. Like back in the day, you could tell a story and it'd be perfect. You could passively tell, you could wax poetic, and I still love those stories, but we just don't have, our readers just don't have the attention span for that anymore. And so the level of performance that we now have to provide, on top of the stress, on top of the everyday, on top of having loved ones being taken from us, losing our homes to fires, to all different kinds of stuff. It makes it very challenging and it builds up more resistance to the actual act of writing. And so now, because we have more resistance, now we have to build more energy. And the act of building more energy sometimes costs energy. So, like, it's very easy. It's very easy to be one of the many burned out people. But the question is how do we come back from that? So I had one author come to me, and she's a Wildscribe. And man, the things that she has overcome in the past few years has been absolutely amazing. Like the things that she has had to deal with, the lows that she hit, what she overcame to be that person on the other end of the phone with me was incredible. And she kept saying that she felt really bad because she couldn't write. And so I was just like, baby girl, you have to give yourself the grace to come back from that. Like, I think that that's something that we don't do enough of, is giving ourselves the grace to be people. And part of that is because the book mill treats us like we are machines. The only way that we can survive, the only way that we can be sustainably successful is by being machines who produce a lot of books. And then we're all crying about AI. Well, AI is taking over the publishing sphere. I mean, yes, there are authors who are using AI to write their books, and some of them are doing rather well. And some of these books are actually kind of decent. But some of us are writers for a reason. And I think that is going to matter a lot. So let's go back to the houses just for a little bit. So if you're a Wildscribe and you burnt out, and it could be life reasons, it could be financial reasons, love, it could be grief, it could be the fact that you just worked yourself to the bone in work or in the author business. And now you come back and you're just like, oh, I just can't produce any words. Well, wild scribes need to be inspired in order to write. And so a lot of times they will wait to be inspired, but you can actually bring that inspiration. You can charge that spark by building things and doing things with your hands, number one, because you're very connected, or you're very kinetic people. You build energy by doing things with your hands and making connections. And then asking yourself why. Like, come up with an idea. You have a whole bunch of them. So come up with one idea and then just start asking yourself why. Why is this important? Why am I interested? What is it that I want to see? Ask all of these questions. Keep digging a little bit deeper until you find a spark, and then just write. Like no form, no expectations, no goals. Just get in there and freeform write. Because what you're doing is you're trying to reconnect to yourself. Right? Now, what if you are a lore keeper and you burnt out, or your heart was broken, or your soul was broken, and now you want to come back? So the lore keepers who have come back to me, they have told me that they have been trying to rest. Okay. Because everybody is just like, well, you just need to rest. You just need to take some time off. You just need to give yourself a break. And they're like, I feel like I'm sleeping and nothing is happening because I'm not recharging my brain. Well, your whole engine is around ritual. Okay. And it doesn't have to be around work. It can just be around the ritual. So like if you are allowing yourself to go to bed really late and sleep in till whenever you feel like getting out of bed, you are actually working against your energy cycle. So if you want to feel that spark again, set yourself a schedule and then just meet it. And then go to bed and get up and do it again. And then go to bed and get up and do it again. And that sounds really boring, but having that ritual takes away from all of the resistance and the irritation of not understanding what you're going to be doing next. It's kind of a form of decision fatigue. I theorize. Understand, I'm not a therapist. I haven't really studied psychology. I've studied personality as a coworker and a friend and as a coach, but like I'm not a therapist, but it really feels like it's a form of decision fatigue. And so when you get into this ritual, you know what it is that you're going to be doing. You don't necessarily know what it's going to look like, but now you don't have to decide when you're going to get up. You're going to get up when the alarm goes off. You don't have to decide that you're going to put on pants because you made that decision before you went to bed. You don't have to decide that you're going to eat breakfast at a certain time because you set that as a time. And so this ritual removes decision fatigue out of your entire schedule. And that is enough to start slowly building up that energy again. And then start slowly adding writing back into your schedule, but not every day. It doesn't have to be every day. Like it can be every Wednesday. You're going to sit down for an hour and you're going to think about writing. Maybe you're going to brainstorm some ideas. Maybe you're going to sit down and you're going to read the genre. Maybe you're going to read some of your competitors, and that is okay. Maybe you're going to edit something. Maybe you're going to go through something that you've done before. Maybe you're going to catch up on the book that you haven't finished yet. But you're going to do that for an hour on Wednesday. It is the act of the ritual that helps you to build your energy back up. So that is what I would recommend for you. Now then, my Heartweavers, you are the ones who are think that you can write your emotions when you are deep in the depths of whatever it is that you're experiencing. Like if someone close to you just died, if you just lost your house in a wildfire, if you just had a nasty divorce, if you just had one of your kids graduate, if you are going through menopause, like big events. And we seem to think that we can just work through that because we are the ones who write emotions. And we gain our energy through the experience of the emotions. Accept that. We gain our energy by writing the transformation of the emotional experience. And we can only do that if our cup is full. And for whatever reason, Heartweavers have the hardest time keeping their cups full. And I think that it's because Heartweavers tend to be caregivers. Not always. Lore keepers are also caregivers. But the Heartweavers tend to overgive. So when other people around them are in need, they tend to overgive. And that's one of the biggest reasons that their cups are almost always empty. But also, when they try to refill their cups, sometimes they are made to feel less than. They're guilt tripped into doing things that remove energy from their cup instead of filling their cup. And they can be gaslit really, really easily. And I think that it's because they are kind of empathic. Okay, I'm going to say they are empathic. I have yet to meet a Heartweaver that isn't. Or at least, Nope. Empathic. Yeah. They can walk into a room and they can sense the emotions of others around them, and they take on the weight of what other people are feeling to help the people who are actually feeling those feels, which is not super helpful for the Heartweaver in question. And the other thing that I have to keep reminding them is that, like, I have to ask them, what is the condition of your cup? Like, is your cup capable of even holding anything right now? Does it look more like a sieve? Does it have a big hole in the bottom? Is it broken? Is it one piece? Is there a lid on it keeping everything out? Like, what is the status of your cup? How are you doing right now? So a Heartweaver, when they're burnt out and they come to me, the first thing I do is I generally get the sense of where they are in their life and how things are going for them in their relationships, at work, with their kids, in home, like just kind of where are they? And I have to be really careful because I'm not a therapist, that I never step into the form of, or into the realm of giving them advice on how to handle their emotions, because I am not certified for that. The only thing that I can say and that I can give any input on is how to get them back into the writing arena. And for Heartweavers, most especially, it is about regaining control of your life and to get to a point where you no longer have to ask for permission or feel like you're being belittled for doing the thing that your soul and your heart is just calling out for you to do. I think that for my Heartweavers, we have the hardest conversations, but they're doing a lot of work and they're coming a long way. And especially with them, as their writing becomes healthier, the rest of their life does as well. Now then, the Mythmaker, uh, Mythmaker burnout looks really weird. Okay. Because Mythmakers can generate their own energy. They're generators, because the act of working, the act of building, the act of researching, the act of writing, the act of discovery all creates energy. So typically they have the capability of going through this infinite energy loop. But so when they come to me, which is actually pretty rare, they're not saying that they're tired. Okay? Because that is not something that they would say. They're stating that they're having a hard time actually getting words into the book. And when I ask them what are they doing instead, they're actually building everything except for the chapters that are supposed to be written. And so their burnout actually looks like building a whole bunch of things that don't even need to be built. They're overbuilding websites. They're overbuilding spreadsheets. They're overbuilding onboarding sequences. How many landing pages do you really need to have? I mean, okay, how many good landing pages do you actually need to have? Well, one at least, and it would be really great if it actually worked well. That'd be super wonderful. And it does take a lot to figure out how to make it work well. Like, it requires a lot of analytics and a lot of tweaking and more analytics and more tweaking. But the Mythmaker becomes obsessed with the wrong things when they're in burnout. And so with a Mythmaker, the idea is to figure out why they decided to obsess over this thing over here instead of obsessing over their book. And we just got to get that energy cycle back into balance. And so with a Mythmaker, sometimes all we got to do is divert their attention and then just keep asking the question, why? Well, why did you turn away? Well, why did you stop? Well, what was it that made you not interested in this? And okay, so Mythmakers are not what I would call connection writers. Those are my Heartweavers and my Wildscribes. They're more the connection writers. And the two builders are Mythmakers and lore keepers. But the one thing that I will say about Mythmakers is that they're the type of builder that they need to have that good foundation so that they can keep building on top and on top and on top. And one of their energy builders is discovery through writing. And so sometimes they haven't built enough of a foundation in the right area in order to discover what they want when they sit down to write. Okay, so burnout is not just one thing. Burnout is not just sitting around and being tired. It's not just being unable to write. It's not just being super scattered and being unable to focus. Burnout is a lot of different things. And how you handle that depends on who you are and the type of burnout that you even have. So I would recommend taking a listen, and then if this is where you are, if you're burnt out, just say, okay, I am this type of author. This is where I'm going to start. All right. And if you have any questions, just let me know, because this is something that I am deeply passionate about, and I sincerely want to help every single one of you be successful. All right. I'll talk to you later. That's it for this episode of the Stamina Author Engine podcast. If something here landed, if you finally saw your own pattern, I'd love to hear about it. And if you want me to name your rhythm one-on-one, grab a free Unstuck Author call. The link's in the show notes, and yes, it's actually free. And yes, I'll tell you the truth. Same time next week, Chaos Authors. Until then, burn the book mill, build your engine, and write amazingly.